السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله. ये बहुत तेज है, इसको आहिस्ता कर, आहिस्ता कर दे. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أما بعد, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا السماء انشقت. Translation: when the heaven is split asunder. My noble audience, Alhamdulillah, tonight we will commence the Tafseer of Surah Al Inshiqaq. Surah Al Inshiqaq is the 84th surah of the glorious Quran, and basically the primary message that has been discussed in this surah is very, very identical and relevant to the preceding surahs. So if we study the first surah of the 30th juz, Surah Al-Naba, that is surah number 78, surah number 81, Surah Idha Shamsu Kuwirat, the next surah, Surah Infitar, we will realize that Allah speaks about life after death. But as we know that there is an interim stage before a person arrives at his final destination, and that is known as Alim Barzakh in Arabic terminology. And we have understood through the beautiful instructions of the glorious Quran and the sublime teachings of Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that this world will be brought to an end by the Creator in a very unique fashion. So in Surah Al-Naba, Surah Takwir, Surah Infitar, Surah Mutaffifin, and the Surah of tonight, Surah Inshiqaq, Allah in a very unique manner speaks about the different kinds of events that will contribute to the end of this world. So basically the surah is known as Surah Inshiqaq, and this name has been given to the surah because the word Inshiqaq can be found in the first verse, Inshaqqat. Now, Inshiqaq basically means to split something open. There is a very famous surah in the glorious Quran, and the opening verses of that surah capture one of the greatest miracles that were shown by anyone, and that is the Shaqq al-Qamar. Iqtarabat as-sa'atu wa inshaqqa al-qamar. So this is surah number 54, verse number 1. Allah speaks about the moon splitting apart. The words used in Surah Qamar is iqtarabat as-sa'atu wa inshaqqa al-qamar. So basically the masdar is the same, the root word is the same, shaqqa yashukku, that to tear something up, inshiqaq, to tear something up. Now basically in verse number 1, Allah is speaking about the sky that is above us, it will tear apart. I'm going to give you an example so you can understand. If we look above right now, we find that the sky above us is in a perfect fashion. It has been perfectly designed. There is no blemish, no flaw in the asman, the sky that is above us. Now I want you to debate for a split moment. Do you think it will be ripped apart? Do you think it makes sense that on the day of judgment there will be an external force that will arrive that will tear it apart? No. Because tearing is like tearing a fabric, tearing it apart. So basically it's not going to be torn apart. The asman above us is like the roof that is above us right now. Now when this cracks, why does it crack? Is it because somebody is pulling it apart? No, basically the roof above us in this masjid, if it was to crack, it will be because of pressure, because of weight. So when there's extra weight, you will start to see a crack. That's how it works. So basically the ulama have said that the heaven that is above us is the last among 7. So there are 6 heavens above it. And the pressure will start from above. And the cracks will start from above. And they will trickle down. And there's a very sound statement made by Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that right now the Arsh of Allah, the divine throne, is carried by 4 angels right now. There are 4 angels that are carrying the divine Arsh, the divine throne of Allah. But on the day of judgment, or around that time, because of the pressure, because there will be a manifestation of Allah's greatness that will descend upon the Arsh, 4 angels cannot carry the weight. There will be 8. يحمل عرش ربك فوقهم يومئذ ثمانية. That day there will be 8. Right now there's 4. So it means that the Arsh of Allah that is above the 7 heavens will be much more weightier. That will trickle down to the 7th heaven, 7th, and it cannot bear the weight. It will start to crack open. And then that will trickle down to the 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and then we will start to see Inshiqaq of the heaven that is above us. So there will be a tremendous weight that will be placed upon the heaven that is above us. And basically this mighty, tremendous weight will be the manifestation of Allah's presence on the Arsh of Allah, with His characteristic of qahr being very, very evident. Right now Allah has Jamal. Jamal. Allah is in the state of Jamal, where we find that His characteristic of Rahmah is very, very evident. It is very, very visible to us. But on the day of judgment there will be qahr of Allah, Allah's anger. Allah's anger. Now basically when a person is in a human being is in a good mood, everything is fine. And when a person is angry, things start to break. So Allah's qahr on that day, that pressure of that qahr, the anger of Allah, will bring a split in all the heavens above and the heaven that is above us, that is visible to us right now. That is the meaning of this ayah. Once again we will translate it. إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ. And when the heaven is split asunder, وَأَذِنَتْ لِرَبِّهَا وَحُقَّتْ. And listens and obeys its Lord, and it must do so. Now, أَذِنَتْ comes from the root word udhun. So basically we call the ears udhun. This is the masterpiece that Allah has given to a human being by which he can listen to different sounds and voices. True. Now in this ayah, Allah has used the same word, created the verb وَأَذِنَتْ. وَأَذِنَتْ لِرَبِّهَا وَحُقَّتْ. He will listen, meaning the sky will listen to the order of Allah. Now what is that order? So I am speaking to uncle and I say something, he listens to me. Now we know what discussion has taken place between me and uncle. But Allah says the asman, the sky above, will listen. What will it listen to? Allah will say, crack open. Allah will say to the sky above, and that's not 1 but 7, one after another, that now it is time for you to break apart, to split asunder. Now basically a very interesting topic has been derived, deduced from the word وَأَذِنَتْ by the academic scholars. They say that Allah uses the word udhun, that they have heard. Basically the sky above has the ability to listen. Basically the sky above has the ability to listen. And we can apply this law across the board for everything that has been created by Allah Almighty, that everything in this world can listen. The only difference is that the humans and the jinns, after listening, they have a choice to accept or to reject. And the remaining makhluk of Allah, excluding the human beings and the jinn, they listen, but what follows is obedience. They do not have the option of rejection. That's why we see that Allah has allowed this universe to rotate on a certain pattern, and it does not drift away even to an inch. Because they listen to the order of Allah, and after listening, they do not have the option to disobey. Now, one of the greatest creations of Allah Almighty in size are the malaika, the angelic world. And when Allah speaks about the angelic world, Allah says, لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون, that they cannot disobey Allah Almighty. So this choice that Allah has given us, this is the academic research, this choice that has been given to us is the reason why we excel over and above the greatest creations of Allah Almighty. The choice. If we make the right choice that other makhluqat do not have, this is a bounty. Remember, choice is a bounty. Right? One person can choose the right path, he can choose the wrong path. That choice is a bounty, because the creation of Allah does not have this choice. We have this choice. And those that use the choice properly, they are granted a status and a rank in the divine court that no other makhluk enjoys. So the deep message of وَأَذِنَتْ لِرَبِّهَا وَحُقَّتْ is that we should use that choice properly. Right? And sometimes the choice comes our way once, and if we don't make the right choice, we will drift away. You know, a lot of people say, youngsters say that, you know, I've fallen into haram, right? Or an adult says, I've fallen into haram. But basically, if we were to trace the track that led him to haram, we will find that at the inception of that track, there was the option, there was a choice. Choice was in our hand. Indeed, we'll be led far, far away from our focal point, our central point, but we had a choice. We didn't make the right choice. So وَأَذِنَتْ لِرَبِّهَا وَحُقَّتْ, the sky above us that cannot bear the pressure, as all the heavens cannot bear the pressure on that day, will listen and obey to Allah Almighty, and it must do so. Now, and it must do so. What do you learn from that? And it must do so. Before Judgment Day, doesn't it listen to Allah? Why does Allah say, and it must do so on that day? Basically, there's a subtle hint in this that has been reiterated in the ayah of Surah Fatiha. Maliki Yawmiddin. Allah is the master of the Day of Judgment. Isn't Allah the master right now? Isn't Allah the master right now? But what happens? Allah does not impose upon people right now. He allows people to be maliks, malik of their house, malik of their life, and let me say, malik of their choice. They make judgment of their choices right now. Allah gives that option to a human being. But a day is to come that that option will be taken away as well. Likewise, Allah Almighty in this ayat is saying that they have to listen to Allah Almighty. They have been listening before, but now the arena, the theater is so enhanced to the obedience of Allah Almighty that if there was a possibility in the past of disobeying Allah for a split moment, there is no chance of that right now. So what will be the condition of a human being on that day? Does it make sense? وَأَذِنَتْ لِرَبِّهَا وَحُقَّتْ وَإِذَا الْأَرْضُ مُدَّتْ وَإِذَا الْأَرْضُ مُدَّتْ, and when the earth is stretched forth. Basically, Jabir bin Abdullah, the Rawi of this hadith, he reports that Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that this earth will become like a rubber and it will be stretched. Because the earth on which we stand right now doesn't have the capacity to carry the weight of all humans that have passed away, and all humans that are living, and all humans that are to come. And in addition to that, all the jinnat that are much greater in number than human beings. The study of Allama Jalaluddin As-Suyuti rahimahullah is that all the humans put together, if they were compared to the number of jinns, we are only 1/10. We are only 1/10 of the jinnat. And then Allama Jalaluddin As-Suyuti rahimahullah says that the jinnat are only 1/10 of the angelic world. And on the day of judgment there has to be a theatre, because the Quran is stipulated يَوْمَ يَقُومُ الرُّوحُ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ صَفًّا. Jibreel is going to descend. He's going to be standing there. All the malaika are going to be standing there. Min al-jinnati wal-nas. All the jinnat are going to be standing there. All the insan are going to be standing there. This ground on which we stand right now does not have the capacity. So what happens? Allahu Akbar. So I was studying that we rise from the land where we are buried. We are going to rise, and we're going to make mention in a few moments, from the land where we are buried. The land doesn't have the capacity to carry the weight of so many insan, so many jinnat, and so many malaika. Now Allah Almighty says in the glorious Quran, and I would like to give the reference of Surah Ibrahim, Surah number 14, verse number 48, يَوْمَ تُبَدَّلُ الْأَرْضُ غَيْرَ الْأَرْضِ. Allah. This land will be replaced with another land. Now I'm going to put a question to you. This is a brainstorm. It's going to activate your mind, and I want you to listen attentively. The Quran says, Surah Ibrahim, يَوْمَ تُبَدَّلُ الْأَرْضُ غَيْرَ الْأَرْضِ, that the land will be replaced with another land. That is the Quran. It is evident from the Quran and the Hadith that mankind will stand up from their graves. And that is Midan-e-Mahshar. So which land is going to be replaced, and when it is replaced, where do we go? When the land is going to be replaced, because we're going to stand up from the land where we are buried. So we stand up from that land. The Quran stipulates that the land is going to be replaced. So where do we stand at that time? So there's a subtle hint in the Ahadith al-Mubarakah that at that time humanity, jinnat and malaika will stand on the edge of the bridge that lies over Jahannam. All humanity will be standing there. At that time the land will be resurfaced or recreated, reconstructed. It will be like a rubber. It will be stretched by Allah Almighty. And it will be plain, smooth, no caves, no mountains, no trees, no mountains, no barriers, no obstacles. It is a surface that if you stand on it, you can see right to the end. It doesn't drop, so it is very, very straight. That land is the land that Allah speaks about in these ayat. وَإِذَا الْأَرْضُ مُدَّتْ, and the land will be stretched. Allahu Akbar kabira. And then Allah Almighty says, وَأَلْقَتْ مَا فِيهَا وَتَخَلَّتْ, and has cast out all that was in it and became empty. Allahu Akbar. Nowadays there's many organizations, and when I was in Pakistan 2-3 years ago, there was a group of people that were passing through the suburbs, and they were promoting family planning. They were promoting family planning. Now Islam is not against family planning, remember that. No. Islam doesn't say you are one after another and you're not taking care of them. You have to take care of your children. You have to give space to your wife. You have to allow her to replenish her lost power and energy. Keep that in mind. But they came with a different agenda. They said that humanity is increasing. The numbers that we have right now, that is like you could say 6, 7 or 8 billion people in the world, we have never ever experienced that in the past. And we are lacking resources. We are lacking resources. How are we going to generate for the growing population? That was their agenda. That was the motive behind their passing through the suburbs educating the women that you should try to study family planning and try to practice it. I made mention that Islam is not against family planning. You plan your family, but it should be with the intention that I am planning my family so I can give the best tarbiyah, not because of resources. Now, the ulama have made mention that this ayah applies to 2 occasions. It's amazing. Listen to the ayah. What does Allah Almighty say? وَأَلْقَتْ مَا فِيهَا وَتَخَلَّتْ, and has cast out all that was in it and became empty. Meaning that the first time the earth will spit out its buried treasures, natural treasures, is before the Day of Judgment. Because in this ayah there's a subtle hint that humanity will grow large in number. And Allah has placed resources in the ground that will accommodate and facilitate for the growing number. And before the Day of Judgment, this ground will spit out so much that was never ever spat out in the past. This is one meaning of this. And nowadays we see the oil that the ground is bringing out was never brought out in the past. Certain minerals that are being thrown out by the ground were never thrown out in the past. The production of the land on which we walk and tread is producing so much that it had never produced in the past, because it has the potential, because Allah knows that humanity is to grow. And the ulama said something amazing. They said that basically this is to honor Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this growing number, because Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam will have the largest following on the Day of Judgment. And it's never happened in the history of humanity. Even Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam could not change that trend, where more people are Muslims than non-Muslims. It's never going to happen. Even Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the greatest educator, could not change that trend. There were more non-believers than believers. Now Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam needs to have the largest following on the Day of Judgment, so humanity is going to grow. Even nowadays we are not even 1/4 of the human race. So more than half the human race is dying without faith. But at the same time, the numbers that are dying with faith compared to the numbers of the past are so magnified and so great. So this is in reality to honor Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well. Now, so the first convulsion of the earth is before the Day of Judgment, where buried minerals and treasures and natural treasures will be brought out to accommodate for the growing numbers of human beings. Number 2. The second convulsion is after the second blowing of the trumpet, where the ground will bring out the dead bodies. It will bring out the dead bodies. It will empty itself from all the bodies that are buried in it. Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, in the hadith is in Muslim, "Ana awwal man yanshaqqu anhu al-qabr." I will be the first shaqqul qabr, where my grave will split apart and I will rise. I will be the first. And then the Nabi of Allah says, فَأَقْسَ الْحُلَّ مِنْ حُلَلِ الْجَنَّةِ. So when I rise from my grave, there will be a attire, a uniform that will be brought from Jannah, and I will wear that attire. And then it has been said, so the graveyard in Medina is known as Jannatul Baqi. So all the people that are buried in Jannatul Baqi, Muslims and non-Muslims, will rise. Then the second Qabristan, or the second graveyard that will split apart and graves will come apart and people will stand, will be the Qabristan in Makkatul Mukarramah, known as Jannatul Mu'alla. And then all the graves between Makkah and Medina. So Medina Makkah and all the graves in between Makkah and Medina, and then simultaneously people will start to stand out of their graves. That's how it's going to work. You and me. So that's why Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala an used to make a dua. He used to say, Allahumma rzuqni shahadatan fi baladi rasulik. He made two du'as in one. Allahumma rzuqni shahadatan. Ya Allah, grant me shahada. Grant me martyrdom. Fi baladi rasulik. In the city of Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So a person, when he makes a dua, he will make a dua based upon his capacity of intellect. Hazrat Umar was a genius. So he brought two things and he thought that he had secured everything. But Allah is so generous that He rewards a person more than he asks for, as long as that ta'alluq and that connection is with Allah. So he asked for martyrdom. So on the 27th of Dhul Hijjah, he was stabbed in Salatul Asr. And he passed away on the 1st of Muharram. He passed away on the 1st of Muharram. He was stabbed in Madinatul Munawwara, in Salatul Asr, in Masjid al-Nabawi. He died on the 1st of Muharram, a noble month. He was not only buried in Madinatul Munawwara, but he made it adjacent to Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Allah rewarded him martyrdom of the highest level. On the Musalla of Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the episode of his death started, his martyrdom, and then it was finalized that he was buried with his mate, I call, and that is Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq and his Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma rzuqni shahadatan fi sabilillah. Wa adinat li rabbiha wa huqqat. So a hulal comes, a dress comes for the Nabi of Allah from Jannah, and he wears that dress. It has been said that Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, who is buried somewhere in Iraq, he will rise and he will be given the dress before anyone else. Now I'm going to put another brainstormer to you. According to the hadith, the first person to be dressed when he comes out of his grave is who? Hazrat Ibrahim. The hadith stipulates the first person to be dressed will be Hazrat Ibrahim. And the reason why, because he was stripped from his garment by Namrud before being thrown into the fire. Alright, now that's one hadith. Now we're going to give you tatbiq, reconciliation. That's one hadith. It is a sound hadith. It is authentic. Second hadith is the one that we just recited from Muslim. أَوَّلُ مَنْ يَنْشَقُّ الْقَبْرِ. The first qabr that will split apart, split asunder, and the person will stand up is my qabr. فَأَكْسَلُ حُلَلْ مِنْ حُلَلِ الْجَنَّةِ, and I will be the first to be wearing the garment of Jannah. Now there is a apparent ta'arud. There's a conflict. So how do we reconcile this? Because the first qabr is Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the hadith, and he will be wearing a garment from Jannah. A garment will come. فَأَكْسَى. After that I rise, I will be given a garment. Hazrat Ibrahim, he rises well after, because I just made mention, Makkah, Medina first, Makkah after, all the qabrs in between, and then simultaneously all the qubur. That is inclusive to Hazrat Ibrahim. So the ulama of hadith, they say that the reconciliation is that the first person to be dressed is Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the first that has been used for Hazrat Ibrahim is that if we were to calculate the timing from the time they stand to the time they wear, Hazrat Ibrahim is the champion. You will get it in quick time. Not before the Prophet, but quick time. So Hazrat Ibrahim, when he stands up from his grave, let's say in half a second he wears his garment. But this will happen after Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he stands, it may take 1 second. So he is awwal, Hazrat Ibrahim, in time. And Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is awwal overall. Does it make sense? وَأَلْقَتْ مَا فِيهَا وَتَخَلَّتْ وَأَذِنَتْ لِرَبِّهَا وَحُقَّتْ, and listens and obeys its Lord, and it must do so. Who's listening now? Before, who was listening? In the previous ayah, that is identical to this, it was the heaven. The heaven is listening, and it split asunder. Now Allah Almighty says, there will be a convulsion, and it will spit out, let's say it will spit out all its buried treasures and natural treasures and dead bodies. And it has to do that because it's the order of Allah Almighty. The time has started where no one, including the human being and the jinn, can disobey the command of Allah Almighty. Next verse is very important. Alright, and I would like you to listen to this ayah attentively. Ya ayyuhal insan innaka kadihun ila rabbika kadhan famulaqi. Oh man, verily you are returning towards your Lord, alright, with your deeds and actions. Now, so return to your Lord, alright. Basically, I don't agree with this translation. What is the translation here? I don't agree with this one. That is a better translation, because I said, where is the translation of the word qadh? Qadh. Qadh means to exert yourself. Remember, qadh means to exert yourself fully. So the translation is Ya ayyuhal insan, not Ya ayyuhal mu'minun. Ya ayyuhal muslimun. This is an address to the entire humanity. Ya ayyuhal insan, O mankind, indeed, innaka kadihun, laboring, ila rabbika, to your Lord, kadhan, with exertion, and you will meet him, famulaqi. Basically what Allah is saying in this ayah is that every person that comes in this world, he exerts himself. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. Allah has created every human being in toil. Even our entry into this dunya is a toil. The mother is pushing. The child is pushing. Our entry into this dunya is a toil. And we can study the different stages that we have passed through to where we are right now. There's a toil. We will always be tested. Hazrat Asma'i, rahimahullah, one of the great scholars of Lughat, of the Quran, he says something amazing in a couplet. He says, Ish musiran in shi'ta, Ish musiran. Now musira means in prosperity. Live in prosperity in shi'ta or mu'siran, or live in destitution. Live in prosperity or live in destitution. So he has covered two types of people, and basically these are the two conditions that a human being experiences in his life. It is prosperity, affluence, and destitution. La budda fi dunya min al-hammi. You are mu'sir or you are musir. You are prosperous or you are destitute. La budda fi dunya min al-hammi. You cannot escape worries if you are in this dunya. Worries is going to come your way. Now every single person in this world, Muslim, non-Muslim, good or bad, is exerting himself. Allah is saying in this ayat, you are going to exert yourself. Keep in mind, when a person exerts himself, he reaches a new level. I'll give you a simple example. Physical. Person goes to the gym. He jumps onto the treadmill and he runs for half an hour. He exerts himself. He finds himself on the next level of fitness. He keeps doing it, and he looks back after 1 year and he finds himself on a very high level of fitness. When a person exerts himself, he excels. He reaches a new level. We find that even in deen. We find that in dunya. You can exert yourself wherever you want, and we have been created for toil. We will exert ourselves for good or for bad, and we will excel. But the pinnacle, the end of the journey of effort, is the mulaqat of Allah. You can exert yourself how much you want, and you can reach the different levels and the higher levels. But the end of that journey is فَمُلَاقِي. The pronoun in mulaqi, the heart, is Allah. You will meet your Allah. That's where you will go. It doesn't matter if you pray tahajjud all your life, or you miss tahajjud all your life. You make $1 million or you make $1 billion. You have no house or you have many houses. You have one wife or you have no wife, or you have 4 wives. Whatever you do, wherever you exert yourself, wherever you place yourself, wherever you utilize yourself, the end of all that is the mulaqat of Allah Almighty. So Allah Almighty basically in this ayah is saying, your end is the mulaqat of Allah. Think about it. One person, he's on a trek, right? And he's going to Sydney and he's going to meet the king. Let's say we are in old times. And it's run by a king, right? There's a king sitting in Sydney in his palace. And he has called for me. And I'm walking to the king. And I know he has many, many spies on the road. Many, many spies in the different suburbs that I'm passing through. And many, many spies and soldiers through the cities that I'm passing through. But I know that I'm going to go to the king and I have to present myself because he has summoned me, he has called for me. Now I can be walking, praising the king, where all the spies and all the soldiers come to know about the praise that I'm making of the king, and they report it to the king. And before I arrive there, the king says, oh, you're a good man, you have been praising me throughout the entire journey. He will deal with me very differently. He will respect me, he will honor me, he will allow me to be dignified in front of everyone. But there's another person, he walks on the same path, he knows that there are so many spies and soldiers, people that are collecting information, and I am backbiting, ill-speaking about the king. All the information reaches the king before I arrive there. The way he's going to treat me is not going to be very similar to the way he treated that person, the earlier person. That is life. Allah Almighty is saying, my mulaqat, you're coming to me. This is your trek. This is your path. Yeah? Speak about me. You know, there's a beautiful statement in Urdu. I don't know how to translate it though, but I'm going to say it in Urdu and then I'm going to try to translate it. मुसलमान वो है जो अल्लाह को मानता है और मुअमिन वो है जो अल्लाह की मानता है. So there are two levels. One is a Muslim, one is a mu'min. Muslim is a person that has entered the fold of Islam, and mu'min is the one that is practicing the orders of Allah Almighty. And basically the difference is of one letter. Allah ko manna, Allah ki manna, ko and ki. A Muslim is the one that believes in Allah, and a mu'min is the one that believes in the commands of Allah. He fulfills the commands of Allah. Huh? He fulfills the commands of Allah. That's the difference. So everyone that is a believer believes in Allah, but to reach the next level, he has to fulfill the commands of Allah. We are all going to meet Allah one day. We're going to exert ourselves. If you think about it, you woke up in the morning, you've been working for 8 hours. You're going to wake up tomorrow, you're going to exert yourself. You're going to do that all your life. But it's going to lead you to death. And eventually death is going to lead you to the mulaqat of Allah. Our exertion of our potential, is it conducive to that meet? That is the question that I pose to myself, and it's a question that you pose to yourself. Once Hazrat Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam came to Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he gave him beautiful advice that I would like to share with you. He says, Ya Muhammad, ish ma shi'ta fa innaka mayyitun. Hazrat Jibreel says to Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and basically he's not saying it to the Nabi, he's saying it to us. He says, Ya Muhammad, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ish ma shi'ta, live as you want. فَإِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ, you will die one day. Live as you want. The option we spoke about in the start, under the word وَأَذِنًا. Live as you want, you can do good, you can do bad. Because this is an examination hall, and the examiner does not interfere even if he knows you're doing wrong. In the test, 3 hours you can write all rubbish that you want. The examiner doesn't come say, oh, what are you writing? The examiner just collects. And after collection of the papers, there's a day to announce what you wrote. We're in an examination hall. Darul Imtihan. This is not Darul Jaza. This is the domain where we are tested. Allah has given us a test paper. We are filling it out by our speech, by our actions. Does it make sense? So Nabi Kareem Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is given the first advice. Ish ma shi'ta fa innaka mayyitun. Live as you want, one day you will die. Wahbib ma shi'ta fa innaka mufariquhu. Love whoever you want, but one day keep in mind you will be taken away from your mahbub. You will be taken away from the one that you love. Love your wife, love your children. Indeed, that is nobility, as long as you do not compromise the muhabbat of Allah. And Allah's muhabbat supersedes the muhabbat of all that you have for the makhluk. But as Jibreel says, وَحْبِبْ مَا شِئْتَ, love whoever you want, فَإِنَّكَ مُفَارِقُهُ, one day you will be separated from that person. وَعْمَلْ مَا شِئْتَ فَإِنَّكَ مُلَاقِيهِ, do whatever you want, but one day مُلَاقِيهِ, you're going to meet Allah. And then as Jibreel alayhi salam says, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّ شَرَفَ الْمُؤْمِنِ صَلَاتُهُ بِاللَّيْلِ, keep in mind the honor of a believer is the establishment of the nocturnal prayer, the tahajjud prayer. وَعِزُّهُ إِسْتِغْنَاهُ عَنِ النَّاسِ, وَعِزُّهُ, and his izzat is that he does not ponder over the material that people hold on to. He only looks at the treasures of Allah Almighty. Does it make sense? And I want my noble audience to go back home and really focus upon this ayah. Ya ayyuhal insan innaka kadihun ila rabbika kadhan famulaqih. Make a poster of this, put it on your fridge with the translation, because every day is pushing us one phase closer to the mulaqat of Allah Almighty. And I'm going to conclude on the last ayat of Surah Kahf. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِنَ الصَّالِحَاتِ قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُوحَى إِلَيَّ أَنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. Very clear. فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ, that person that intends to meet his Allah. Even if you don't wish and desire, you're going to meet Allah. We're going to meet Allah. But Allah says, if you want to meet Allah in a positive state, then you have to do two things. فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا, commit to works of righteousness. Do good deeds. وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّي أَحَدًا, and do not associate partners with Allah Almighty. The second command in this ayah is upheld by us. We do not commit shirk. And to safeguard ourselves from all levels of shirk, do one thing. Every night before going to sleep, Nabi Kareem Muhammad said, if you recite Surah Kafirun, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ لَا أَعْبُدُ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ إِلَىٰ آخِرِهِ, till the end. If you recite this before going to sleep, Nabi Kareem Muhammad said, you will die as a Unitarian. You will die as a Muwahhid. You cannot die as a Mushrik. So the second injunction of this ayah is upheld. And the first injunction is do good deeds. This is up to us, that we do good deeds, and if we can, inshallah, the mulaqat with Allah will be so honorable. It will be delightful. Inshallah, Allah give us tawfiq to implement what we have heard tonight. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.